Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to All Burgundy Gold Everything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. You're listening. We thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. George, what's up?
To talk about this very interesting press conference, the open training camp.
It is, man. But let's get the particulars out the way first, man. As I mentioned earlier, you're listening to All Burgundy Gold, all Burgundy Gold, everything. Here on Fox Sports Radio 1340 AM and 96.9 FM. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, All Burgundy Gold, everything. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter at ABG_everything. Hit us up on IG and TikTok, also at ABG_everything. George, what we want to talk about tonight? Hey, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn had a press conference today, right? Had a press conference today talking to the media for the first time for a new season at the opening of training camp. I want to hit some of the highlights, and also we want to talk about what everybody else want to talk about is the fact that Terry McLaurin did not show up to training camp. He did not report today. Did not report to training camp today. Let's start there because I don't want to hold the people up. We'll get to the press conference in a minute. How big is this for you, George, that Terry McLaurin did not show up? Because we know the last time he had contract disputes, right? Some things were fixed before training camp. This time, Terry didn't show up. Your thoughts?
I'm at the point I have dismissed the hyperventilating over this over the last several months because I felt all along, surely this group of people who have their stuff together and have proven, at least so far, that they're very good at what they do, especially in the front office, we're going to get a deal done because the last bunch of clowns was able to. And now that it's not happened, I'm concerned because the optics of this are terrible. Remember 4 years ago when this was coming down to the wire, you never heard a trade demand from Terry McLaurin, even though half the league would have been lining up to get him, maybe even more than half. You never heard any complaining from Terry McLaurin. You never heard any of that. And then the deal got done. And that's with a group of people that we would never want to see walk through the door in Ashburn again. And they were able to get a deal done with Terry McLaurin that valued him. Now we have this front office, which has done an amazing job, and this coaching staff, which has done an amazing job. And we're sitting here at the start of what could be the biggest Washington season since 1991. And one of our cornerstone players is holding out. And I just never thought it was going to happen. So to all the people that have been talking about this and warning about this and going on about this, you were right. I was wrong. I'm concerned. And some of the messaging coming out of the press conference when it comes to that kind of concerns me as well.
All right, here's as you mentioned the press conference. Adam Peters declared in the press conference, made it clear in the press conference to everyone in the bill that they value Terry McLaurin, that he is valuable to the organization, not only on the football field, not only at Ashburn Park, but also in the community, also in the neighborhood. He said that Terry McLaurin is valued. All right, he said both sides are in talks and they're working towards a deal. He said there's no need to panic, but did not deny the fact that negotiations will be hard, right? Did not deny the fact that negotiations will be hard. And at the time of the press conference, he expected him and Dan Quinn both expected every player to arrive at training camp. Well, one player did not arrive at training camp, and that was Terry McLaurin. So here it is. If both sides have been talking, they value Terry McLaurin, and we all know the team values Terry McLaurin, right? We all know that even prior to the contract contract talks last year when it was brought up, the team mentioned they value Terry. They want to get the deal done. They're not meeting on the right numbers, but he has been, according to Adam Peters today in his press conference, he has talking. Both sides have talked, and they are negotiating. The question is, how long will it take for them to negotiate, and when will we expect to see Terry McLaurin in Washington training camp? And George, question for you: does it make a difference? Does Terry McLaurin need training camp?
Yes, Terry McLaurin needs training camp even a little because you've got to get your body right and physically ready for the NFL season. You're not a quarterback. Quarterbacks are one of the only positions that can kind of get away with not, unless there's a new coach in town and you're doing a new offense. But in general, you need training camp. That's number one. Number two, we're dealing with two separate messages here because if I'm not mistaken, when Terry McLaurin did his press conference last week or 2 weeks ago, didn't he say that they hadn't talked for a month?
He said they hadn't talked, but now Adam, I guess after the press conference, they must have had conversations.
Yeah, but the point is, if this was going to be a hard negotiation, what happened to that month? And when Adam Peters says he values Terry McLaurin, I want to believe him, and I want to give him and Terry McLaurin credit. They're not leaking to the media. They're not airing the dirty laundry saying, well, I want this, or they offered that, or whatever. But let's be honest. If they really valued Terry McLaurin, would they be that far apart on the deal? Wouldn't we be hearing, well, they're close? I don't know if they do.
Well, some report Adam Schefter and some of those are reporting that the deal will get done soon, but we don't know what that means, right? I do believe that a deal is going to get done, right? I do believe that it's going to be done in good faith. I do believe that Terry McLaurin will play for the Washington Commanders this year. The question is, who gets the deal done? Will it be from the Commander side, or will it be from Terry McLaurin's side? Which numbers we're going to meet at, or will they meet somewhere in the middle? Because again, we mentioned on this show several times, and all the guys in the chat mentioned as well, we don't believe that Terry's a $37 million receiver. He's not Justin Jefferson. He is somewhere in the
fair.
32 million dollars range.
If Adam Peters had offered 3 for $90, which has been mooted by members of our chat and other places, I think we'd be hearing that the deal is imminent. The deal's going to get done soon. Well, soon to me would be like, okay, this coming week it's going to get done. Soon to them could mean weeks. That could be soon to them. What does that mean? I mean, here's my question. Are we fighting over the years of the contract? Does Terry want 4 and we only want to give 3, as a for instance? Or does Terry want 5 and we only want to give 3? Because that would be something where I'd be looking at Terry going, okay, what you got to work with us here. We're not giving you a 5-year extension. It's crazy. Does Terry really want $37 million or $40 million? Does he want Chase Jefferson money? Or is Adam Peters offering him 25 a year, which is I think would be insulting to Terry McLaurin at this point if that's what he's offering. So what are we fighting about here? Because I remember 6 or 7 or 8 weeks ago when this started bubbling up, people were saying, oh, they're not far apart on the years and the money. It's the bonus money it's the signing bonus that's the problem. Now we've heard different things. So I think that, to be fair, at least we're all being kept in the dark and they're not airing the dirty laundry out. But at the same notion, it's hard to tell who's right and who's wrong here.
It is. And, and again, let's be honest here. You're losing money today. He's missing money, right? You miss tomorrow, he'll be missing money. Depends on how you count today. Today's day 1, tomorrow day 1, whatever. He's missing money, right? So money is not, you have to pay the fine, which we know NFL contracts are redone, so money can get thrown back into the contract. The fine really doesn't mean anything because when he does sign a contract with the team, the fine is going to be paid. Fine is going to be paid, taken care of. So that was Terry McLaurin. We'll get back to Terry McLaurin a little bit later, but there's some other points that I want to talk about. We're dealing with the press conference with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. And so one of the things that they definitely talked about is that Dan Quinn was asked, how is it with the players that are coming into their second season with the Commanders, right? And he mentioned that a lot of guys are hitting their growth spurt or hitting their momentum and get to see those guys hit their momentum in the second season. But 2 guys he felt hit their momentum or hit their growth during in the last season. That was Jaden Daniels and Mikey Sandestill. And so he believed that they are the second-year players. He mentioned McGee. He mentioned Stinnett. Those players will be moving. He's looking for them to make jumps. He said they made jumps in the offseason, right? Weight room and knowledge of the game. George, do you think those guys will be able to make jumps this year? Those second-year players that was drafted under Adam Peters and Dan Quinn that were rookies last year that contributed to this team nonetheless. Do we see them make jumps? And one name that was missing that I noticed, he didn't say anything about McCaffrey, but I digress.
Well, if there was one part of the press conference that put a big smile on my face and made me feel optimistic, it was hearing that about those 3 guys in particular, because I am certainly a fan of all 3 and think all 3 can be critical, will hopefully be critical to our success. I feel like if Brandon Coleman, Jordan McGee, and Ben Sinnott all play a major role in this team's success this year, this team's going to be really damn good, presuming the Terry stuff gets sorted out. So hearing that at the press conference today, it doesn't make up for how I feel about the Terry situation, but it helps. I hear that, and I feel fantastic about the direction of this team because I think all three guys can make major contributions, and I hope they do. I hope Brandon Goldman goes in at guard and is amazing because that's going to help us long term so much if that's the case.
Yep. I'm gonna put this out there real quick. Thanks, Paul. Fines start tomorrow, and they're not refundable. Right? It's fines start tomorrow, and the question is he
Paul's
willing
right.
to take taking those fines? Right? You mentioned the name Coleman, right? And Dan Quinn really talked a lot about Coleman today, how he transitioned from tackle to playing guard, and how he kind of embraced that role, played that role in college, and is willing to move that role, to move there, to do well for this team. And I think that is a big part, right? Because he's feeling, let's be honest, he's feeling some big shoes. Cosby's shoes are big to fill. He says Cosby, speaking of Sam Cosby, he said in the press conference that Cosby's hitting all the checkpoints, right? He's hitting all the checkpoints that they want him to hit and the time that he needs to hit them in, and he's recovering fast. The players that came in today took physicals today, so we should hear more of a report on Sam Cosby tomorrow through Dan Quinn's press conference. Me personally, Sam Cosby should not return this season, but that's a whole different that's a whole different conversation.
Completely in agreement with you. But here's the hope. If Brandon Coleman really plays well, maybe we don't see Sam Cosby this season as a result.
Yes, but then what happens to Sam Cosby when he comes back? Does he move to the other side?
No, I think we move Brandon Coleman again.
And if Coleman has a good season without Sam Cosby, all right, do you really want to move Coleman? I know he's a team player, but if this guy goes out there and have a great season at that guard position, right? I mean, stellar season. Washington does well. He performs at guard like we think he can do. That they have two good guards, right? Do you move one over to the other side?
Brandon Coleman could be the new Raleigh McKenzie, who played all over the offensive line in the glory days. Sam Cosby got that contract playing that specific guard position. That's where he goes back to when he's healthy, whether that's November, December, or January this year, or hopefully August of July of next year.
Got you. Dan Quinn also mentioned something else. Somebody asked him about training camp. What does he like? He said he enjoys training camp because it gives him opportunity for the players to compete and to outwit each other, give players opportunity to compete, grow, and basically iron sharpening iron, right? Sharpening each other up. And give the DBs the opportunity to pick Jaden Daniels off and give linebackers an opportunity to go head-to-head with guys, running backs and offensive line to go head-to-head with guys like Bobby Wagner. And now you bring in Von Miller, guys like Von Miller. He loves the competition of this team. He loves competition of training camp, which makes this team better. And we saw that last year. When he came in with the concept of competition, it did elevate this team because no one wanted to lose. This team started believed in themselves and believed they could achieve anything because of the fact of competition. George, your thoughts about competition in this organization that Dan Quinn has brought in and trying to continue in year 2 as a Washington Commanders head coach?
I love Dan Quinn saying the first opponent is us.
Yeah,
we're our first opponent. I love that mentality from Dan Quinn. I love the fact that he's. I'm hoping. I mean, I still wonder about what's going to happen when we get to the preseason games because I still think they didn't use those properly last year and it contributed to the loss in Tampa. But I think we're going to get a lot out of preseason this year, no matter what we do at the games because of that mentality that he's fostered. And it's that mentality. I mean, the other thing you had to love is talking about all the players that wanted to, and coaches that wanted to come here because of Dan Quinn and that attitude and what he delineated there is part of that. It's absolutely part of that. So I really enjoyed that. And I'm hoping that's going to play out at all the positions. Give everybody a shot. Give everybody a shot, even the rookies, even the undrafted free agent guys. Some of these guys that we've been talking about, like Robert McDaniel and those guys. if they're playing better than somebody that was on the roster last year and they should get that spot, then give it to them, even if they're not heralded. So I'm totally buying into that. I love that, and how Candy Waller's a friend of this program, asked 2 wonderful questions about the first few weeks and how they're building everything out, and we got interesting answers from Dan Quinn on that as well. That part of the press conference I enjoyed as well.
We talk about building in competition. My man Paul says this. Paul says if there's competition, excuse me, this is the one I want. If it's true about competing, we'll have a new starting running back, right?
I'm singing from the same hymn sheet as Paul on that one, baby. I am saying amen and hallelujah to that statement. 100%.
But what we've seen in the past, right? Brian Robinson has excelled in training camp. In the past, he's always excelled in training camp. He won the job in training camp, right? Remember?
And do it again. Do it again, because the target's on your back, the clock is on you.
Contract year,
and that goes for the rest of the running backs too. Every one of them. Nobody, with the way they performed at the end of the season last year, should feel safe in camp. Not a one of them.
Definitely not a one of them. You got McNichols, who's put the ball on the ground. You got Eckler, who's dealing with some concussion, who has dealt with concussion issues. You have Chris Rodriguez, who bounced between the practice squad in the main roster last year a lot. Everybody's high on Chris Rodriguez. People like Chris Rodriguez, but can Chris Rodriguez be that guy who can make this team? Because right now, if we're honest, Chris Rodriguez is a question mark. Because he's a question mark to make team. There's only 2 guys that you could probably say, running back wise, that is on this team. Everybody else is question marks, right? You can say Brian Robinson is on this team. You can say Austin Eckler is. I even say Jeremy McNichols may be a question mark that he's fighting for. He's fighting for a job.
He should be a question mark after that fumble in the championship game last year.
Yes,
as far as I'm concerned.
So he's fighting. So the running backs there. Paul brings up this another point too. Another competition, another battle is Luke versus Lane for the 4th wide receiver spot. It is that battle. It's a lot of guys in that battle for that 4th wide receiver spot. Right, you got some old guys in camp. You got Noah Brown, who's been hurt. Michael Gallup there. So there's a lot of guys for that 4th spot that's fighting there. You think the young guys will win it. The name McCaffrey may not help Luke this year.
Are we going to see? Here's the other question. Are we going to see, is Lane only going to be returning punts, or are we going to see Lane and McCaffrey back there for kickoffs? Because I'm certainly interested in that as well.
I would like to see Debo back there, truth be told. I'm just being just to be
that's
that guy.
Interesting.
I like to see Debo back there return some. Maybe they have him in special situations or a big punch, but Debo has done that, right? He may have lost a step, may not have lost a step. We'll find out, but I would love to see Debo back there catching, attempting to catch punts or kickoff returns to get yards, especially the new format that they have it. He has time to start running. So once he catches the ball, he has some room. So it will be interesting to see if Debo's back there any chance. Adam Peters also talked about while doing the press conference. He spoke about he highlighted some of the changes that happened at Ashburn Park. He highlighted some of the brand new facilities, the new he highlighted the new bubble. I believe they have the new bubble there. Upgrades to nutrition center, recovery rooms, and locker room spaces. In the locker room, they wanted to change the culture, and we know that Harris has spent some money, right, to upgrade some things in Washington for the players to make them better relaxed to move forward, right? George, is the updates needed? I mean, I know, of course, they need it, but your thoughts on the update?
Well, and again, this is the thing. This is what makes the whole McLaurin thing so difficult, is that when you talk about doing the right things, this ownership group, this front office, down the line, from what they've done at the stadium to what they've done at Ashburn Park, to how they handled the stadium situation with Congress last year and working on that, and how they've proceeded in with this, trying to get the stadium deal done. They haven't put a foot wrong. Did the last regime, the last owner, was not investing in the stadium that we're in, and was not investing in Commanders Park, whatever it's called now. He wasn't. And Josh Harris, understanding that you need really good facilities because everybody can pay now. And if you don't have really good facilities that players are going to trust and believe in, they're free. They're not going to come as free agents. If you have a turf where players are getting hurt all the time, like FedEx has been for almost its entire existence, players are not going to want to come and play for you. You're not going to get free agents. So the front office and the ownership group on this, 10 out of 10. Absolutely excellent to hear that. And that is part of what's changed, as somebody said in the press conference, Washington's gone from a place nobody wanted to go to Chick Hernandez who asked the question, and he's absolutely right. Washington's become a place that free agents are like, yeah, I don't think so. Don't go there unless you just want to get paid. To everybody wants to come here, including former Super Bowl MVPs.
And well, speaking of former Super Bowl MVPs, Von Miller wants to come here. Von Miller is here. Von Miller received 1 year, $6 million contract from the Washington Commanders, which could be worth up to $10 million with incentives, George. Could be worth up to $10 million with incentives 1 year. Here it is, some interesting fact that I did not know that I heard in the press conference, and I want to talk about this. We say, everyone asks, is this a win-now situation for the Washington Commanders, right? They mentioned Adam Peterson every year is a win-now situation, right? We want to win now. We want to be able to win right now. But with that being said, Washington is the oldest, right? Based off age, has the oldest roster in the league. Can they win with an old roster, with an old team?
Yes, they can. They can't. You can't win long term, but you can win this year. And the thing is, they've got an old roster, yes, but is it too old to win this year? No. And it's Adam Peters has pointed out, and many other people have pointed out, the age of this roster is a function of having gotten almost nothing out of drafts from the previous regime. Think about how few people were drafted by Ron Rivera and his front office who are still on this roster. That's 4 years of drafts that essentially have gone right down into the sinkhole. So yeah, we're an old roster. And the thing is, this is hopefully as old as it's ever going to get because we've got a front office that knows how to draft now and is hopefully going to draft us lots of good players. We made these trades and didn't have a lot of draft picks in part for the reason that we found holes that we needed to plug now, and we believe we're a contender. You don't trade for Laramie Tunsil if you don't think you're a contender. You don't trade for Debo if you don't think you're a contender. You don't sign Von Miller if you don't think you're a contender. These are the things that you do if you believe that you're in the championship conversation. And for once, because anytime any Washington people thought that the last 25 years it was laughable, it's not laughable now. They are in the championship conversation. That is why they have an old roster.
So in the championship conversation, question for Paul. Is this team a Super Bowl contender?
Yes, 100%. If the McLaurin thing doesn't go insane, if we're talking about Terry McLaurin holding out all the way through camp, yes, that could sink everything. Because again, the optics of it, the message you're sending to the locker room is so bad, it can corrupt everything. But if they get that settled and that's done, yes, 100%. We're not in the AFC where there's Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Herbert and Jackson and all those great quarterbacks. We're in the NFC where our biggest obstacle is Philadelphia. The Rams, maybe. I think people are overrating the Rams. That's me. Tampa, maybe.
Overrated.
They got to stay healthy, and they've already got problems on that front because Chris Godwin we found out had another procedure to do with that ankle injury that took him out last year. But really, the big obstacle is Philadelphia. And if we can get past them, there is no reason to think they can't be in the Super Bowl. I'm not buying Detroit this year. I'm selling Detroit 100%. And Green Bay's got to show me that they have receivers who can catch the ball. Because right now they got one, and that's the rookie they drafted. The rest of them got to show me. Until then, I'm not considering them.
I think this team is a playoff contender. I think it can go deep. Super Bowl contender, to me, I think it depends on the running game. You have to be able to run the football in order to win championships, right? This team could throw it around. And I mean, you have to be able to run it without your running back, right? I mean, without your quarterback. Last year, like I mentioned on the show last week, Jaden Daniels cannot be your leading rusher in order for this team to go. You have to be able to run. the football, right? In order to be able to control the clock. I know we want to outscore people, and the defense has to be able to stop. We say it all the time. Defense wins championships, right? So this team has to be able to stop people in order. The defense has to be able to win the championship. So if the defense can be in the top 10, offense can be in the top 10, I would say this team is a Super Bowl contender. Only time will tell. Taj has a question. Hey, Taj, I actually like how AP is building the roster. Yes, they technically are old, but our core players are young. I do agree with that. That is a great point. Great point there, Taj. Because the core players are young, right? Your Jaden Daniels, young guy, right? He's a young guy. Even running backs, the running backs they have besides Eckler are young guys. You want to go back to the receivers. Terry's still a young guy. I don't call him old, right? He's still a young guy. You look at some of your D linemen; they're still pretty much young guys from that standpoint. Secondary is definitely young, right? The secondary is definitely young. Your linebackers are old. We have Bobby Wagner in there. Lou's been around for a while, so you got older linebackers. So when you look at it, there's a good mix. I think the mix is great for this team. Because you want veterans with young guys who are teaching guys to move up. That's why when you hear names like Jordan McGee, you expect him to have jumped this level, because last year he stepped behind a Louvu. He stepped behind a Bobby Wagner. He learned last year, right? Johnny Newton, he had to be thrown in the fire because Allen was hurt last year. So he didn't get a chance to really sit and learn or really get back healthy as he needed. So those are things that you look at. I think this team has a good mix of veterans and young players. Now can everything be put together, right, and be able to run, win the NFC East? That's the first. Well, let me take it back. Rewind that, because I'm gonna talk like a coach. Win week 1, right? Go 1-0 each week. Yes. That is the goal, right? The goal is to go 1-0 each week for the Commanders. Good, because Dan Quinn said it. They're playing against themselves. Right, they're the toughest opponent. They have to play against themselves, and they have to be able to win each game for themselves, right? And don't hand the ball off to anybody. No mistakes, no 5 turnovers like they did to the Philadelphia Eagles. Actually, they won that game, but you know what I mean. All right. So when you talk about this, the leadership presence, right? We talked about Von Miller. We talked about Bobby Wagner. And the team in the press conference, they talked about a culture shift, right? Shifting the culture. George, how much more shifting does this team have to do, right? Has the culture already shifted in your opinion, and there's not much more besides win football games?
I think it has. I think you look at just the nature of the turnaround last year and how completely and utterly opposite that it was to the previous 25. I mean, I don't see how you can sit here and say they need to do much more. They got to a conference championship game, winning 2 games on the road. And yes, I know what happened in the conference championship game, but that wasn't as much about culture as it was about the supporting cast around the quarterback wasn't good enough. And we believe, or we like to believe, that we've upgraded it. I think we have. And I want to put this out. We talk about how important Terry McLaurin to the culture, and he is. But the guy that may be setting the ultimate trend, the ultimate tone setter, is Jaden Daniels. Because look at him. For all you, there's a sophomore slump coming. And that's mainly you crazy Eagles fans who don't know better. Jaden Daniels is not resting on his laurels one iota. Right after the season was over, he already talked about, I've got to work on certain tendencies and not having those so that people can't game plan against me. Jaden Daniels understands that people have film on him and that he's got to change and evolve, maybe evolve more than change, so that when they throw stuff at him to try to stop what worked last year, he's got a counter for that. Jaden Daniels is not going to have a sophomore slump, kids. It's not going to happen. Not unless he gets hurt, because up here, he has a championship mentality. And let's be honest, if your quarterback has a championship mentality, the rest of the team is going to follow. It's like the Pied Piper. And he is the Pied Piper in that regard. And that's why, yes, I don't think we do need to do much more on our culture, because the most cornerstone guys in that locker room all have championship mentalities, all have that mentality that makes them want to be the elite, the very best in the league.
I agree with that. And that I guess I am the minority. Right, when it comes to this, I think this team can win without Terry McLaurin. And I think, and some of the guys look at me crazy. They've said, I've been saying it for a while, George. I've been saying if this team can win, I didn't say Super Bowl. This team can still be where they're at without Terry McLaurin. And so I think things have to work out and get I didn't see the contract get done, but if it doesn't get done because of JD5 and this question here that Paul has, will JD5 put his will on this team? If JD5 puts his will on his team, I don't care who's out there catching footballs. All right, this kid's not going to lose. He doesn't like to lose. I'll bet on JD all day long. He'll find somebody else to be that guy, whether it's Zach Ertz, whether it's Noah Brown, whoever it may be. We'll see it.
You were asking Jaden Daniels to be Tom Brady, who was able to quite often overcome a less talented skill position group of players. And that's a lot to ask even in year 2, even for Jaden Daniels. Now, he may be able, you might be right, and he may be able to do it. My position is you can win without Terry McLaurin, yes, but you can't win the Super Bowl without it. And that's what we're talking about here is winning the Super Bowl.
If he goes down and get hurt, George, does that mean the Washington? Let's say Terry McLaurin doesn't have a contract issue. Terry McLaurin is in the season, George. He's playing a game, and Terry McLaurin goes down. Are we saying that the Washington Commanders season is done because Terry McLaurin got hurt during the season?
No,
I look at it that way.
I mean, I agree with you that they can win without him, but can they win a championship without him? That's the question. Because, yes, you've got Jaden Daniels, you've always got a chance. That is 100% clear. But here's something else that's 100% clear. Part of the reason Jaden Daniels had the greatest rookie season ever is that he had Terry McLaurin to throw the ball to, like in week 2, when he looked down the gun barrel of a blitz and was going to get knocked into next week, and he throws that ball drops it right into Terry McLaurin's hands, and Terry McLaurin holds on to it. Would any of our other receivers would have hold on to that pass? I don't know about that.
But it does not mean that we're going to lose that game neither. It could have been something different.
No, but it's are they going to be a 10 or 11 win team and maybe win one playoff game and get knocked out, or can they win 13 or 14 and go to the bowl and beat the Eagles to win the division and that kind of thing? I think that's the difference.
Right. So
between having him and not having him.
And this goes to Todd's question here. Question is, can we argue that be made that Terry had a best year because of JD5? And that's why front office is hesitant to max him out or give him more than 2 years. Can we argue be made?
That's a fair point, Taj, but at the same time, I would just go back to what I said. One hand washes the other. Yes, Terry McLaurin had his best year because of Jaden Daniels, but it's not as if it's his only good year. He had productive and pretty good years with who this, who that, and God knows who at quarterback. And again, I would just ask that question. Would Jaden Daniels' rookie year been as great if he didn't have Terry McLaurin to throw to, considering Terry McLaurin caught, 13 of those touchdown passes? Or 12 of them, because he caught one of them from Mariota in the last game against Dallas. It's a symbiotic relationship. And it's like having Terry McLaurin and having Zach Ertz too, but having Terry McLaurin in particular, I think was huge for Jaden Daniels' development because he could count on him to make big plays like the one in Detroit in the playoff game, like that one on Monday night, like the one in Dallas against Dallas in the home game that should be going down as one of the all-time great plays, but the kicker.
Yeah, but the kicker, right? But the kicker. That would have been an overtime game as well. The kicker puts it up right, which we thought.
And Washington would have absolutely won in overtime. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, because JD. Yeah, I think they would have won in overtime as well. Coach mentioned that the offense he believed was run through Terry McLaurin last season. I think, but the same. Even if the offense was run through Terry McLaurin, let's hypothetically say that a lot of things were designed for him. You have a guy, and I'm not saying Deebo Samuels is Terry McLaurin, but Deebo Samuels can fill the gap for what Terry McLaurin is missing. And what we may miss.
Some of it.
Some of it. Right. What I'm saying is not all of it. Some of it. So who's explosive, right? Who, if you put the ball in his hands in space, can make guys move. So again, I'm not saying that this organization does not need Terry. I believe this organization does need Terry. I believe the organization can excel with Terry, but I also don't think this organization, that if they don't have Terry McLaurin, is poop. I think this organization still be competitive, still be in games, and I think this organization and team in JD5 will still find the ways to win. Again, and it won't bring the morale down because everybody understands it's business, right? Everybody understand. They understand that it's
I'm not
money.
so sure about that.
George, everybody understand that it's money and it's business,
Yeah,
right?
but
You want to give.
Terry, you think about those pregame speeches and you think about what Terry has meant to this franchise. Everybody in that locker room respects him. And I think some of the people in the locker room are going to kind of look at it kind of funny if you're nickel and diming him. I'm not sure that doesn't mess with the
But they
morale
already,
a little bit.
George, they already nickel and diamond half the team. They on 1 year deals. They're nickel and
That's different though. That's totally different.
they're nickel and diming them now. They're on 1 year deals. That means that we only want you for 1 year. You got to perform, and then we pay you. Certain guys are multi-year deals.
I understand that. Most of those guys though weren't here and just came here. Terry McLaurin's been here.
He
And
has.
I go back to this. Anytime in the last 4 years, if Terry McLaurin had requested a trade, nobody would have been mad at Terry McLaurin. Everybody would have said this organization sucks, and I don't blame him for wanting to leave. And I think that has got to count for something. And I know that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters weren't here during that time, but that they've got to understand that these optics matter. This political town that you're the area that we're in, the optics matter here, and it's not great. And yes, it's going to bother people in this locker room. It absolutely is, whether they want to admit it or not. Yes, we all know it's a business, but Terry McLaurin's been an institution and set himself up as one of the big leaders in this locker room last
Right.
year.
Todd says this only irreplaceable guy is JD5.
That's true.
All right. So
100%.
this is my thing. We started this podcast and we started this talk about how Dan Quinn talks about is competition, right? That he wants the organization to compete. He wants the guys to compete. You're competing because you want to be the starting guy. You're competing because you want to be that guy that everybody can trust. You're competing because you want to be the next Terry McLaurin on his team, right? Because again, you're competing. Number 2 guys competing to be number 1. Number 3 guys competing to be number 2 or competing to be number 1. Everybody's competing to be that guy. So if you teach competition and you preach brotherhood and what they said all year last year, next man up, right? Terry's not here. Next man up, right? You can't go get your own philosophy. Can't go get what you're teaching, what you're talking about. Sam Cosby's not here. Brandon Coleman here. Next man up. So what it should be and the preach should be is Terry's not here. He handling the business. We working with it. Guess what? Tomorrow at training camp practice, when we start, is next man up. Because that's what you preach the whole time. Your philosophy has to be same regardless of who the player is.
That's true. Again, if the goal is to win a championship, then you've got to figure out a way to resolve this so that we can get on with the business of that. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of these press conferences to open camp are usually boring and a non-event. And I think if the Terry McLaurin thing wasn't happening, I'm not sure we'd be on the air talking about it tonight. But because it is, it's a story, and it's a big story. And it's quite right, too, because, again, you're talking about a great receiver who's persevered through some terrible times and still produced, and then had, 3 or 4 of your biggest plays of the season last year in the best season you had for 30 years.
Right. And you mentioned it. If deal does not get done, this is a black eye on Adam Peters. This is a black eye on Josh Harris. It is a black eye on Dan Quinn, even though he said he has nothing to do with this as a head coach. It's a black eye on his organization. Everything's been right so far in his organization. Everything they've done so far has turned into gold. Everything they've done so far has been touchy. If they do not do it and buy in, right, is that they will have a black eye from the fan base and maybe from the league on Terry McLaurin. I mean, for not getting the deal done.
And I said it last week, but it's really true. You have capital. They earned a lot of political capital last year. They earned a lot of credits in the bank with everybody, but you can spend it real quick. And, Terry McLaurin's holdout is the way to spend it real quick because We only got so many years before we got to pay Jaden Daniels, and then it becomes tougher to win a championship, even as great as Jaden Daniels is. Right now, you've got the perfect situation. You've got a top flight quarterback on a rookie deal, which means you can load up the roster to win championships. You do not want to waste a year of that. You don't want to waste a year of that. And you could possibly do that if you don't get this McLaurin thing worked out.
I say this, and Coach said it too. Terry only leverage, all right, is holding out week one. It's holding out is in week one. This team goes out and start winning week one, and they put up big numbers without Terry McLaurin. And you go week two.
They're playing the Giants, though. They're playing. I mean, and the Giants have a good defense, but it's going to take more than week one before I'm going to sit here and say, oh, we can win the championship without Terry McLaurin. It could take a lot more than that before I go down that yellow brick road with you.
You know what? And everybody's talking championship. Last year, we was just talking for this team just having a winning season, right?
No, that's true.
Right. Last year, we were just talking about
that's the JD5 effect, baby.
Right. We talking about last year. This time, we talking about, man, we just hope this team goes 7-9, right? Most people said 7-9, right?
Yeah, I had 7-10. I had 7-10 at this time last year.
7-10. 7-10. Sorry, 17 games, 7-10, and so now a year later, we're talking about Super Bowl contender, beating the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Because of who's in the backfield, and it was just JD5 because of the offense. I believe the deal gets done. I think there's nothing for us to too much worry about. If he goes any longer, to me, I think somebody said if he goes past the New England, if he goes past next week with New England game and he gets into that second or third week of training camp and Terry hasn't come in yet, I'll start sweating it. And I'll start like, you know what? But right now, day one, week one, nah. Somebody got to see who has the biggest cojones, right?
I hope you're right. Again, I wasn't concerned until today. I wasn't concerned because I thought surely it's going to get done because these folks have just been doing everything right. And now I am, but you may very well be right. There may be a deal Friday or Saturday this week, and then we can all laugh about everything we've been talking about.
Hey, your point, Pat Mahomes went without Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's Pat Mahomes. And Tyreek Hill's also an imbecile, so that's not the same.
But he was not the same. He was a big contributor. He was the number one. He was a big contributor to the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl.
That's true. And he's also a loon bag. And the Chiefs saw that and said, that's why we got to get him out of here. And again, that's Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is still number one. Even though the Eagles did to them what they did to him in the Super Bowl, Pat Mahomes is still number one.
Hey, Todd said this: Payne, Tunzel, Miller, Debo, and Wagner respects Terry, but as long as they got JD5, they march it on. And I think that's the way a lot of fans believe. Not that we don't discount what Terry has done for this organization, nor what Terry. I think fans want Terry to get paid. Can we be honest? Everybody here, I know here, we want Terry to get paid, right? Here, I just think the NFL, we want Terry to get his money. We want Terry to get his money. He just has to come up with a reasonable number. And let's not forget, you're still under contract.
But he's
still
anybody that's looking at it fairly would say that contract undervalues him and maybe even severely undervalues him at this point.
Right.
Are we giving Trey Hendrickson any status for holding out? He's not even anywhere near where they're doing training camp. And he's ripped the organization, said all this. If we're not giving Trey Hendrickson any static for it, why would we give Terry McLaurin any static for it?
This is an all burgundy and gold podcast, George. We ain't talking about the orange and black. We talking about the all burgundy and gold. We were talking about Cincinnati. We'll give him all the slack because I think his holdout is stupid as well. Because that's another reason why Washington didn't trade for him, because he wanted too much money. And let's be honest, we had that show. We talked about Washington trading for him, but they needed a pass rusher. They're not willing to give him $30-some million neither for a pass rusher. And we wanted $30 million for a receiver who's going to be, well, again, that's a whole different offense, different thing. But again, 30 million is 30 million, whichever way you slice it. All right. Coach says this about the Tyreek Hill situation. KC became a yak offense after Tyreek Hill, and that
also true.
That's also true.
Also true.
And teams typically negotiate extensions a year before free agency. I got that. It is a year negotiation. This thing been going on for a while. We knew Terry. We knew Terry was going to want money, and they should have known. Again, this is stuff that you do in the off season. Yeah, but he has no leverage.
I mean,
We
I
want
think
him to
he's
get
got some leverage, Taj, because we hope that Debo's going to be really good, but we don't know. We don't know because again, the injuries. We hope,
right.
but we don't know. And when you look at the rest of this wide receiver room after that,
Yeah,
I mean, you're putting a lot on guys like Jalen Lane.
you are. Hey, Paul says this again. If Terry and his agent doesn't agree to 3 years, $100 million, I'm accepting calls if you're Washington.
Well,
And
I
I'm
mean,
taking
that's where Paul. That's the contract that I want for Terry. So yeah, if he's not doing that, then then it's a lot of. But here's the other thing: if we had knowledge that he turned that down, everybody would take Adam Peters' side, including the people in the locker room. I think.
But that's why this organization is keeping that tight lip. You would never know the numbers until it's done.
No, and that's to their credit. To their credit, every other circumstance with this franchise the last 25 years, all the dirty laundry would be getting aired. That neither side has done that is a credit to both of them. The only frustration is we don't know. We don't know. And we want to know. I want to know what Adam Peters has offered, and I want to know what Terry's told him that he wants so that I can judge for myself who's really who's the baby face and who's the heel here. But it's to their credit that we don't know because that's the way championship organizations and championship players should move, is they shouldn't be airing their dirty laundry out in the public.
They should move. They should move in silence. Again, I think this team happens. As we wrap this thing up, George, final thoughts on this press conference with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. Anything else that you got out of that you want to take away from their press conference?
Again, I want to shout out Candy Waller, who's a friend of this program, for excellent questions that she asked Dan Quinn about the beginning. I loved what they said about McGee, Sinnott, and Coleman. That out of this press, if there's a takeaway that I'm excited about, that's it. Because I really think those three guys are going to be important to this team. And I can't wait to see what those three guys are going to do. And I just the only other thing is let's just get this Terry thing done so we can talk about being a championship contender. Because, gosh, this is the most anticipated season for such a long time. And I just want everything right so that we can get on with the business of the first preseason game and who do we like and who performed and who didn't, and see these running backs. And I want to be talking about this running back battle and the battle in the defensive backfield and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely, man. Look, I realized today after watching this press conference, George, that this training camp isn't going to be about playbooks of plays, right? It's going to be about the mindset of this team. And right, we
Yes.
start off with a distraction, right? And so can this team keep a tough mindset of this team? We know they put in work behind the scenes, right? We heard about the new bubble, we heard about all the new things in the facility and all that. One thing they said about the press conference, this is not a win later time team. This is a win now team, right? So we get to see a team that's trying to win right now, which is different from the last thing we saw for the last 30 years, right? A team that's trying to win right now. And they're trying to win now, and we get to see them put all that together here in training camp, which is interesting. Look, it's about Jaden Daniels. Can Jaden Daniels escape this sophomore slump, right? Everybody said that C.J. Stroud had a slump last year. Guess what? They still was a playoff team, right? I'm sorry.
My problem with the C.J. Stroud slump was that it wasn't C.J. Stroud it was a slump. It was everybody around him,
right,
that affected him. And in the playoffs, he showed you that he's still the man and still one of the better quarterbacks in this league. But for a really terrible officiating call, they might have upset Kansas City in the second round. And they got absolutely hosed in that game, and people better not forget that.
and the last thing on this, George, that I want to say, look, what would NFL be? What would the Washington Commanders be? What would the NFL be if you didn't have great storylines heading into training camp, right?
That's true.
Great storylines. They are must-see. The Washington Commanders are must-see TV. And good gracious, wait till we get on Hard Knocks later on in the season.
Look at the way everybody whose team reported today is reacting. It's like everybody has gotten that first crack fix at the start. The people have been reacting like literally they've been brought back to life now that training camp that everybody's reported for training camp. I mean,
Right.
it's a mania, this NFL thing in this country. It's a total mania.
It is a total mania, and we're gonna keep hitting you up with updates, with news, man. So make sure you subscribe to us on all platforms. Make sure you subscribe to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Hit us up at on Twitter at ABG_everything. Hit us up on IG and TikTok at ABG_everything. If you're on YouTube, you have hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button now, because we're gonna try to pop up videos throughout the whole training camp when breaking news things happen. We're trying to be here to talk about it. We want you to talk about it as well. So those that are watching, make sure you hit us up. Make sure you subscribe. Hey, once again, thanks for joining us. I'm Glenn, along with my main man, George. Wole and Mo are out tonight. And thanks for watching All Burgundy and Gold Everything. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Peace.